something is supposed to, for instance, be able to stick. Okay? So what's sticking? What's sticking is something to do with something called truth. Truth is what is keeping everything intact, everything alive today. Okay? This is the nature of truth. People may not understand the truth because they don't understand themselves. The deep level of understanding in all aspects of reality is exactly what is needed, not something on a surface level. Well, where surface level doesn't make a correct choice or a decision in what needs to occur. So, allowing something, for instance, to sink in has a very good effect because something is taking the amount of time needed to make sure that something is the way something needs to be. When people are going against and what is in need and how something is in need of something to be is the main problem. Going against something that is true. So what do we have here? We have things, we have a phenomena. In that phenomena, there is a problem going on. This problem that's going on is interconnected to everything else that's also causing issues, causing problems to everything else. What is that problem? The problem is that something in any given aspect of reality is in some type of a void. Something is somewhere where something is not supposed to be. Something is supposed to be here, something is here instead. When something is here instead, that something that's here instead is also connected to something else that is making something here and here and here and here and here and here and everything's all over the place. Everything's scattered. Number one most important thing is this: stopping physical emotional harm, regardless of anything, regardless of what anybody says. Stopping physical emotional harm is something, for instance, via visions, via thoughts, via words. Just like I was explaining earlier, don't force somebody to cuss and then say that they're wrong. Lack of understanding stuff going on, right? In the 3D level. I would even say 2D level. I would even say minus 5 void level in the 3D. That's exactly what I'm saying. So, via visions, via thoughts, via words, via feelings, via food, via partaking, supporting, needing, wanting, doing, choosing, deciding, believing, entertaining, dwelling in. creating, buying, selling. Okay, I'm sorry. I was just interrupted with some type of weird phenomena going on this moment of time, and some type of a weird stuff I heard. So, me doing what I need to do at this moment of time and me being bothered is literally what I'm talking about at the moment of time. So, lack of understanding people and whatever they're doing some type of a weird thing, whatever they're doing. They have to be disconnected from my channel because they're not making sense with anything that I've been doing, I've been mentioning. So, the very same thing I was talking about in regards to a puzzle piece is not the answer. Something is not the answer. And somebody's trying to force something, and that has to stop because that's exactly what I'm talking about. The importance of stopping physical emotional harm. So the emotional and physical harm and what's going on is very relevant because the physical emotional harm, once that is stopped, then everything else can be. Just like I've mentioned previous times and numerous times, not because of any reason except because I understood what the phenomena was. So when that type of stuff is being stopped, who are the ones that are continuously messing something, and why? Are they being manipulated? Are they being tampered? Are they being forced? Are they being threatened? What's going on? Because there's not, something is not going on because of no reason. There's something going on. So that's something that's occurring, needs to be known in the planet because everything is interconnected and has to be stopped. I do know what I'm talking about. When there's certain things like I mentioned before that I may not understand, and I do, and I'm just trying to understand something more. That some people are tying and connecting to something else and making things seem like I don't understand. Things that may make sense, things that may not make sense in whatever they're doing. However, what does make sense is the fact that what does make sense is the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't need to be bothered in the process and whatever I'm doing because the answer is important.
Phoenix.
So the answer has to do with making sure that the physical emotional harm is stopped for everything else to be. When I'm talking about physical emotional harm, I'm talking about in sound too. I'm not only talking about in visions, I'm not talking about thoughts, I'm not talking about words, I'm not talking about food or doings or feeling, needing, wanting, choosing, deciding, supporting, partaking in, entertaining, dwelling, buying, selling, believing, creating. I'm not talking about just those. I'm talking about everything. Sound, the misuse of something is also the flaw. The person is supposed to return to balance. This is the number one most important thing. This is what I have jotted down on my whiteboard over there. The number one most important thing is return to balance within and outside of myself. I can only return to balance outside of myself if I return to balance within myself. Because everything is tied and connected, me return to balance within myself is not simply me. This also has to do with everything and anyone and everyone that is interconnected to doing the same thing. Everybody is supposed to, for instance, return to balance within themselves. Very fascinating. I just took a little walk, and after taking that little walk, I noticed that there was thoughts going on that were not mine. That's exactly what I said. Literally, me not thinking anything, and there's just like these weird thoughts going on. Anyways, the number one most important thing is the fact that somebody has to return back to balance within themselves and who they are, not who they're not. Who they're not is the lack of balance. Keep in mind, this type of stuff is solved every day. I solve things every single day. Okay? The people not listening are the problem. And there's people that are not listening that make sense. There's people that are not listening that makes less sense. And there's people not listening that makes no sense. And in time, the no sense may make sense depending on everything. However, the point would be to be aware and to understand and to listen in terms of know what I'm talking about. Because there's also a reason why something is not official today in various other ways. That's not just for no reason. You know, something happened that way that moved in one direction instead of another. So, especially when I'm striving to make something official, why didn't I? Very, very important. Something was forced, something was in a wrongful way. That has to do with the hint point that I just made. To get out of a void like situation, the person is supposed to return to balance within themselves. The balance is the true self, the lack of balance is the false self. That's in one specific aspect, though. There's various aspects of reality that things are minus, minus, minus five. So when you look at one particular aspect, okay, one thing you can do one way. However, that one way, when you do something, may be tied and connected to everything else. So simply somebody returning to balance within themselves, taking care of themselves, everything else that's a problem, everything else will be corrected, will be fixed, will be restored, will be straightened out, will be tables turned. Things will change according to truth and what the person is and who they are, going in the flow of the universe, not against. Yeah, that made perfect sense for me, except not the hand part, except everything else in terms of why I'm doing this for a moment may have been to do with that. Something drove me. So, for instance, everything being fixed has to do with one primary thing: a person being healed. Any person. A being, not a person. Excuse me for that. A life form. Something that has life in the form, in the vessel, in the life form. So the life form needs healing. Matter of fact, I have flies around me. Okay? I just noticed. Well, I didn't notice just now. I noticed a while ago. I noticed that the flies are, their behavior has changed. The flies' behavior has changed. I've been watching these flies for some time now, and their behavior is totally calm. Something instead of bzzz or whatever that is, something is bzzz, something is calm. So that's not for no reason. What's happening is something is changing, and something is changing and is then sticking correctly and allowing something else to change correctly. So similar to any life form, the life form is interconnected to all things in life. Every single being. There's 7 billion people. I don't know. Maybe. There's 10 billion people. I don't know. Maybe. There's 100 billion people. I don't know. Maybe. There's 1 trillion people. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know for sure. What I do know is that humans are not the only one in this life. What I do know is that this planet is for all life. And for all life, that equals coexistence, so everything can flow and not go against one another. So everything can fulfill the purpose. This is a different topic of discussion. I'm going to say this for a little bit later. Going back to balance within self. Balance within self is very relevant because simply the being returning to the correct nature of how the person feels in terms of healing, getting out of predicaments, is the number one topic of discussion. Because with the person getting out of the voids, everything will click, everything will be realized, everything will be understood, everything will be known, everything in terms of everything that pertains to somebody, not people forcing something to be known or something like that. No, I don't support any of this type of stuff. I don't support any form of thing that is forced. I support everything that's a puzzle piece and how everything is supposed to be. So the healing process of the person is needed. Somebody may say, "Oh, this person is a harmful person, so they need punishment." I agree. Okay, I agree that people do a lot of things that they're not supposed to do and they know not to do, and they deserve punishment. However, with the whole totality of all things on the planet and what's going on, I believe the person that caused issues that deserves punishment may in fact need healing. Based on totality of all things, something occurred that something was not supposed to occur versus something that could have not occurred and occurred. So there's variations of specifications, I'm sure. However, I do know that a general rule of thumb, regardless of anything, a person needs healing. Of course, somebody may say, if I cause issues and want to heal, me, oh yeah, I'll just cause issues and me heal. That's not how that will work. You see? That's part of the specifications and variations I was just mentioning. That's not how something's supposed to work. Something is supposed to strive to not make mistakes, not to cause issues, not to do something wrong. Just a general rule of thumb, though. Something needs healing. In general, all beings in general, regardless of any form of being, the life form that's in the being, they need to heal. So this equals that people are not in balance. They're not in unison within themselves. They're all over the place. They're scattered. They're puzzle pieces here, they're puzzle pieces there, they're puzzle pieces here, they're puzzle pieces there. Something is not functioning correctly. The planet is the same way. The beings are the same way. The life forms are the same way. Everything is interconnected. Everything is not functioning the way something is supposed to. Sure, there are things functioning, something's better, something's less, something in between. However, not everything is functioning the way something is supposed to be functioning, the way something is supposed to be, the way something is a need to be. So the need can only be done in a correct and true way. And something being a puzzle piece. So the need and something being a puzzle piece equals, and I just heard OMG. And I saw a weird vision that I don't want to see. The person is supposed to take care of themselves, and the other person is supposed to take care of themselves and each other. I know what some people are thinking. They're like, oh, well, you didn't do this, you felt this, or whatever that is, except I didn't. I passed because something was fixed, something was wrong. Something was supposed to be natural, not fixed. So somebody did something in a forceful, wrongful way that doesn't make sense with reality. And then try to say I failed or something. And try to sell that notion. Matter of fact, I passed it in a different way with that person also changing and being aware. So, anyways, the need of something and someone and the life form, if somebody only cares about themselves and doesn't care about, for instance, feeding the birds, or care about, for instance, feeding an ant, or care about, for instance, feeding a bug or an insect, I can assure you this is not how this will be. Before we design it, before changes, before laws, before petitions, before anything, there has to be benefits for things to be enabled to change. So, for instance, we are interconnected with all life. So that equals when, in general, all life are good, we're also all good too. When we're not, when all life is not good, when we're only thinking about ourselves, then we can never be good because we're neglecting and we're disregarding all life. We're neglecting and disregarding things that are a part of us in a different way. So I would suggest, for instance, at this moment of time, if anybody's building a sidewalk somewhere, to do something in a transparent way, to do something with nature incorporated, with something to do with flow. That something, for instance, is to do with nature, to do with something that is a benefit of self, the beings and the planet in terms of something being in flow, and not simply a regular sidewalk. For instance. So one of the most important things is to make sure that the whatever anybody's doing has to do with nature and has to do with something being in flow with nature, not against. Notice these sidewalks, these blocks, these pavements, they're not really, in unison with nature. They're blocking nature. They're going against nature. They're not the answer, in other words. There's something better. I've spoken about this in the very beginning to give like a little hint in what's going on so people can realize, understand, from the beginning to me to now, if they want to understand the book or whatever it is that they want to understand. Now just use the word it. I don't like using the word it. Anyways, so in terms of this is the answer. Somebody taking care of themselves. Not too much, not too little, the exact amount. So in somebody healing and somebody getting out of all the predicaments within will enable somebody else to get out of the predicaments within. Will enable somebody else to get out the predicaments within. Will enable somebody else to get out the predicaments within. Will enable everybody to get out of the predicaments within. The first step is to get out of every form of predicament that you're involved in. So everybody needs to heal. Everybody needs to take care of themselves. People cannot be eating junk expecting different results. People cannot be eating pills or drinking pills and expecting different results. People cannot be not taking care of themselves, in other words, and expecting different results. The change has to be, the person has to say, I'm going to do whatever I have in my disposal to only partake in the correct things and whatever I have for changes to occur, for other changes to occur, for other changes to occur. That's exactly how change will occur. So one of the most important things is to make sure that people understand that they're supposed to heal, that they're supposed to take care of themselves, for changes to be enabled to be made, for other changes to be enabled to be made, for other changes to be enabled to be made. Everything has to do with the person changing themselves. So the person changing themselves is the answer. The person getting out of predicaments, the person healing is the answer. And the person healing and the person getting out of the predicaments, not misusing truth, and not trying to blame, because that's not how things are going to work. People will make sure and ensure that I'm being bothered with a nonsense vision again. That's not true. So, whoever's doing this type of stuff while I'm trying to say something or do something has literally messed about one direction to another direction to another direction to another direction. So think in terms of healing, okay? Anything that whatever's going on, think in terms of, if people want things to take less time, think in terms of healing, think in terms of surface, middle, and deep levels of understanding. And in between. With healing, everything else in terms of all choices, all decisions, all things that people are doing on a daily basis will fit where everything needs to fit in the flow of time. And in fitting where everything needs to fit in the flow of time will enable more changes, more understanding to occur, more realizations to occur, enabling more changes to occur where somebody is getting at it from a minus, 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 minus 5 to a minus, 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 minus 5 to a minus, minus, minus 5 to a minus, minus 5 to a minus 5 to a 5 to growth where something belongs. So this is what people have to focus on. This is what everybody has to agree with. This is what people have to be on the same page, and this is what must occur. Okay? So that's the answer. People never thought this would be so easy in terms of what they need to do. However, doing something and saying something easy are two different things. A lot of things sound easy. However, when you start doing something, you realize something is not easy. However, something will be easier along the way, and people simply being the answer. This is not a battle outside. This is a battle inside. So the battle inside, you have to return back to balance within yourself. Everybody has to return back to balance within themselves. Outside, everybody has to turn balance within themselves. So balance within equals balance outside. Balance outside equals balance within. Interconnected. So this is the answer. Regardless of everything else that has nothing to do with the answer, were things that no one was supposed to be doing anyway. The way somebody's going to get out of a minus, 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 minus 5 or 4 or 3 or 6 or whatever. I'm just choosing 5 because 5 is the middle of something, middle of 1 through 10. That's the reason I'm choosing 5. Something is in between. So I just heard something to do with 1 minute, and I saw Nas's vision again. Okay? I don't know what this is about. However, I do know that, again, people need all the time. They need to be able to get out of any form of predicaments and not something to do with a minus, however, something to do with a plus and getting out of a minus. So very relevant stuff because the -5 cannot be with a 5. That's a clash. In all aspects of reality, everything starts within. Everything starts with health. Everything starts with wealth. Everything starts with healing. Everything starts with somebody being in tuned and balanced within themselves. So this equals that in all aspects of reality, and simply somebody understanding and healing within themselves, everything else will be changed for everything else to also change and everything be where something is supposed to be. That's all there is to that. You want to go from things all over the place to things that are supposed to be like this. So, healing within yourself, healing outside yourself, healing outside yourself, healing within yourself is going to get you from this place to this place in no time. So the minus, 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 minus 5. The goal in all aspects of reality, not just in one particular aspect of reality, because everything is interconnected, will be to go from all these minuses to the five and where something is supposed to be and needs to be. This will occur based on changes. The person being aware, so this equals everybody's responsibility, since people took me away from my responsibility and how I was going to do everything, and still would have been everybody's responsibility regardless. A person being aware of this specific aspect in reality, understanding something in a correct and true way, where you have to be aware, understand the phenomena that the planet is involved in, being aware, changing, whatever people have in their disposable, not misusing truth, understanding that visions, thoughts, words, doings, feelings, food, what you buy and sell, what you need, what you want, what you're choosing, what you're deciding, what you're supporting, what you're partaking, what you're entertaining and dwelling in, what you're believing, what people are creating or manifesting with via their emotions, all has to be based on truth and true direction. So truth equals true direction. True direction equals heaven on earth. Heaven on earth equals heaven on the inside and heaven on the outside. Allow this to sink in. Everything to do with truth. Every word I say, allow to sink in based on what the truth really is. So everything does have to do with flow. Everything does have to do with unison. So this is what this is about: flow and unison. Some people want to see something in a logical way. They don't want to see something in all the aspects of reality, and they tend to make a lot of lousy uh, choices and decisions. The problem is people making a choice and a decision that doesn't have anything to do with the truth. However, that being a problem, what is realistically the answer is the fact that there are not only bad things that people can choose, there are good things that people can choose. So the choice is obviously to choose something that is good, not something that is not good. Because something that is bad, not good, you cannot choose, you cannot want, simply because that's a misuse of choice. Changes have to occur for the change to be enabled to occur. When you go to a store and there are good things and there are not good things, if you buy the not good things and you want to blame, it's not going to work. That's not how things work. That's out of the picture. There are good things and there are not good things. You're supposed to partake in the good things. That's the correct usage of truth. Doing so based on education, based on knowledge, based on understanding, this will change the not good thing. And the good thing and the bad thing will simply be good in balance, truth and balance. Because something is illogical. If somebody says, "Oh, well, I can choose the bad thing. I can choose the bad thing in reality. I can choose the bad thing, and I can, for instance, cause issues." That's a misunderstanding. That's a lack of knowledge in what's going on. Because the misunderstanding has to do with the person that is trying to blame on something and trying to make something look bad, similar to a game that's being played, that is trying to claim that they're correct and that something else is incorrect. Something else is not incorrect. The person is incorrect. The person is incorrect because the person is misusing choice, choosing to partake in something bad, enabling the change not to occur. Excuse me, not enabling the change to occur. The change is occurring from something that's supposed to be good and not something that's supposed to go against something that is good. So the change is going against something that is not good. So this is not a change. This is a misuse. This is a corruption of change, that something is going against that is good. So this is not realistically change. This is something not changing. This is something getting worse while somebody calls something change. So the changes have to occur based on understanding, based on knowledge, based on somebody understanding that they have a choice to choose something that is good. And in choosing something that is good, they can pick something, for instance, a healthy chips versus junk food, a plant-based meat that smells and tastes like the real thing, versus something that is the meat of an animal that has been kept in a dark place, that has been tortured, that has been not taken care of, that has been neglected, that has, who knows what's going on? Who knows if there's hormones on that thing? Who knows if the same thing that somebody's eating has to do with something to do with some type of a meat, some type of a meal that they're eating that is harmful for the animal, that then something else is ingesting that harmful thing. And this is normalized. This is conditioned to be normal. Now imagine that. Imagine something that is forbidden, something that is wrong, something that is harmful, something that is going against the nature of this universe, to be conditioned, to be normalized, for people to partake in, to be able to support, to be able to buy, to be able to eat, to be able to sell, to be able to want, to be able to need, and all these basic principles that I'm mentioning. That is a violation in what's taking place. And here's another flaw I'm catching. Anytime I'm trying to do something, anytime that something is directly to something that I understand deeply in the natural, correct way that I've been doing from day one till today, there's some type of a weird thing going on where there's some type of a phenomena taking place where something wants to believe something that is not true. Everything except the truth. Okay? This is how some people are operating. They're operating in a way where everything I'm saying is true, everything is accurate, everything can work, everything can go from a minus, 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 many, many minuses to where something belongs. And some people are choosing to go against this and claim this is wrong and trying to make me believe I'm wrong and make other people believe I'm wrong. Okay? They want to say, oh, it's because of this, it's because of this, it's because of this, it's because of this. Except because of what something is. Realistically. Everything except the answers is how these people are thinking. And they're not making sense. They're not making sense with me. They're not making sense to me. Things are not working out the way something is supposed to work out. Because they're going against the very same thing that is true. Themselves. And trying to drag me or the people in the process. Lack of understanding. That's what that has to do with. So, like I said before, everybody has lack of understanding. I have lack of understanding too. The point is to accept the fact that people have lack of understanding and don't understand, because surface level is not understanding, to be able to change things accordingly, to then be able to understand, to then be able to make a correct choice and decision. Things are running out of time. Before somebody understands, there's going to be another minus, 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 minus thing going on. That's why I said before, whether you understand or not, the person that does, at least listen to the person that does, and in time you will understand. There's nothing not to understand. Everything is understood, and everything is understandable. I've made this easy. I've made this very easy. And some people have claimed that I've made this difficult. No, not true. I don't know who made people believe that. However, in general, you cannot make people believe in any form of lies. That's another point. Anybody that's believing any form of lies, anybody that's believing any form of nonsense, anything, whatever has to do with lies, to get out of those beliefs, has to get out of those predicaments, whether they're in stress, whether they're in fear, anything and anything, whatever anything and anything is, they have to get out of these type of predicaments. Okay? That's the truth. So there's a phenomena going on. And that phenomena, in what's going on, has to do with something going against the nature of truth, going against the very same thing that's keeping them alive today. So what's happening is that there's a clash instead of a flow. What needs to occur is physical, emotional harm stopped for everything else to be enabled to be. People have to agree. People have to understand. People have to be aware, and people have to be on the same page. People have to be aware. People have to understand. People have to agree. People have to be on the same page. And changes have to occur. Those 5 things is exactly what's needed on the face of this planet. With all this technology, all this power, all everything, there should be no reason why people are not doing what they need to do in this very second, in this very moment of time and before, to make sure and ensure that everything is the way something is supposed to be. So in terms of something mixed all over the place, something scattered, something not where something is supposed to be, in all aspects of reality, there are specifications in what's going on where things are connected, where there's a bunch of clashes going on. There's a better way. There's a misuse of truth going on, and things are not being understood the way something is supposed to be. Because why people rushed me, rushed somebody else. The phenomena and what occurred is something is supposed to be, like I said, in 5 years' timing, for instance, and somebody wants to do this in 1 year timing. You can, except has to be in the most correct way in all aspects of reality. Otherwise, it won't work and will be a waste of time. And this is exactly what some people have done with their lack of understanding, with them making wrong choices, wrong decisions. They have affected me to do something where something takes less time to take a lot more time than something needs to, simply because of the lack of understanding. Have affected me, have affected the planet. Because look, what happened to me was not what happened to me. What happened to me, what happened to the planet in terms of the totality of all things, past, present, future. So the most important things that I'm mentioning, the most important things that I've said is not what I've said, is not what I've mentioned, is what the planet has been mentioning for years, for hundreds of years, for thousands of years, for decades, for centuries, for millennia. And what I'm saying, the answer always resurfaces. Truth always resurfaces. There's a reason for this. This is not a coincidence. This is not chance. This has to do with, for instance, something that makes sense. Something that makes sense is always saying me, 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 me. In a different way. Whatever that something is. Something that may not be making sense, may be making sense, may be making sense. See, so something is off. There's off things I'm feeling. Because in that moment of time, for instance, if something was enough, I wouldn't say something in a moment of time. And how I just said, how something was. So this is also not an accident. This is also not a chance. This is also not coincidence. Because this has to do with all things all over the place, like I was mentioning.
I won't be back till later tonight.
Okay.
Please walk the dogs and feed the dogs.
Can you walk the dogs and feed the dogs?
I already did walk the dogs, feed the dogs.
Okay.
I walk the dogs. Of course, they're gonna need to be walked again. I'm not gonna be back till later at night after I'm 9 p.m.
Okay. The answer always resurfaces. What's up, Marty? Good girl. People are not supposed to flatter me. People are not supposed to flatter anybody. Matter of fact, the person is supposed to flatter themselves. The person is supposed to make sure and ensure that they do their part in whatever that they are doing to be able to understand that something that is true always resurfaces in various ways. This is not a coincidence simply because something is saying, hey, this is the way. So, with something being the way, the correct way, and how something is supposed to be, not how you want things to be, is what's going to get from something from point one to point infinity. However, from point one, before point one, there's a bunch of minuses. And all these minuses have to be taken out of the voids based on changes, based on the correct way of getting out of predicaments, healing. So these minuses can able for other things to change. So something can be at point one where something is supposed to be, and in being in point one where something is supposed to be, that point one can go to first step, to second step, to third step, to fourth step, etc. That's what's needed. And something saying something in a moment of time, and guess how something feels. Something is a puzzle piece. This is how something is. Okay? So all these extra things, all these excessive things, all these things that are out of balance, out of tune, are not realistically making sense the way something is supposed to make sense. Because the way something is supposed to make sense has to do with something getting out of voids into where something is supposed to be realistically. And I don't know how some people have counted things. I don't know how some people have done things. However, nothing to do with me. Some people, I think, what they're doing is they're shifting their blame, or they're taking their anger or frustration or personal issues out on something else, simply because they don't realistically understand. Because if they did, they wouldn't be going against something that is true. Everybody has a capability of being true. However, not everybody is true. And the reason something is not true and has the capability of being true is because of many, many things in reality that are off, that are wrong measurements, that are mixed, that are all over the place. And instead of something being fixed, there's things being fixed, and then there's things that are being neglected. There's things that are not making sense. So, one of the most important things is to, in general, understand the phenomena and what's going on. And in understanding the phenomena and what's going on, do your part. You know, this is up to everybody to do their part to make sure and ensure that things make sense and things continue to make sense. Because a lot of people supposedly made a lot of wrong choices, wrong decisions. But I believe there was more to the story. Where people were made to make wrong choices, wrong decisions, so they could be possibly blamed on. Where something was not their fault, where truth was being blamed. In other words, true victims were being blamed for something that wasn't their fault. Like me, a bunch of nonsensers. What they try to do is they try to make me, and this is true for everything, a bunch of nonsense here in reality that goes against the very new nature of reality. Try to go against something that is true. Try to make truth believe that truth was wrong, to try to control something, to try to go against something. They had a very difficult time with me, and they couldn't do so with me. However, they were possibly successful with various other people in the past and whatever they did, whoever they pertains to, because they could be anybody. Things that may be just, things that may be not just, things that may be less just, and things that time will tell whether or not something is not just today, maybe just, today, tomorrow, a week from today, 5 years from today, 10 years from today, based on elements. So, instead of something taking 100 years, instead of something taking 1,000 years, instead of something taking so long of a time, the more people understand the phenomena and what's going on, the more they'll be able to make sure and ensure they do what they need to do to do their part in being true. Doing your part in being true is the answer in how something is supposed to be. So all this type of stuff has to do with understanding, has to do with people doing their part to make sure and ensure that all things work out the way something is supposed to work out, not the way things have been operating or working for some time, because the way things have been operating and working for some time has nothing to do with how something is realistically supposed to be operating. In other words, so that's one of the most important things that people have to understand, people have to realize. The fact that there is a disconnect in reality, and what needs to occur is the disconnection has to change to connect. And that can only happen in the correct and true way. Where something that can take 100 years can take 90 years, can take 80 years, can take 70 years, can take 60 years, can take 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, less than that, because something is a need a long time ago to be done. In the correct and true way. In the totality of all things. The correct and true way in the totality of all things equals something or someone having to everything doing their part to make sure and ensure that something heals. One person healing equals two people healing. Two people healing equals three people healing. Three people healing equals four people healing. Four people healing equals five people healing. Five people healing equals six people healing. Six people healing equals seven people healing. Eight people healing equals nine people healing. And nine people healing equals 10 people healing. From 10, you can go to 100. From 100, you can go to 1,000. From 1,000, you can go to 10,000. And from 10,000, you can go to 100,000. From 100,000, you can then go to 1 million. From 1 million, you can then go to 10 million. From 10 million, you can then go to 100 million. From 100 million, then you can go to 1 billion. With 1 billion, you can then go to 2 billion. With 2 billion, then you could go to 3 billion. With 3 billion, you can go to 4 billion. With 4 billion, you can go to 5 billion. With 6 billion, 7 billion, 8 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion. However many billions and trillions of life forms that there are. That's the first step. So there's a lot. There's a ton of relevant things that people need to focus on. Okay? And so what people need to do is stop any form of irrelevant thing that they're doing that may not realistically be a need. There's things that are more relevant.
Bozeman.
So this is one of the most important things that people do need to consider. That people do need to make sure and ensure that they are on the same page, that they understand, that they're aware, understand, change, agree, and be on the same page. When I say understand, I'm talking about deep levels of understanding. And it'll, of course, allow this type of stuff to sink in. Supposed to be 8, 7, 6, 9. I forgot how many zeros a billion had. So now that's relevant to me in my counts and what I was doing. However, that wasn't really relevant at the moment of time and what I've been mentioning. So this equals all life forms in general. So and getting the first thing correct in terms of how people need healing, how people need to get out of their predicaments, is what makes sense. With this, all things will be enabled for all things to be. So, regardless of all these things that people are thinking about, all these things that people are wanting details for, and everything else, is relevant and is irrelevant depending on what, depending on whom. The most relevant thing is to make sure and ensure that people are understanding what I've been mentioning. To make sure that they get out of their predicaments from all these minuses to less of these minuses to less of these minuses until there's only one minus, and then back to 5 where something, for instance, belongs. And it can't work out that way simply because 5 being plus, 5 being plus, connect. Minus 5 and 5 doesn't work, is the flaw, is the issue. So There's all about people doing their part to make sure that everybody's doing their part to make sure that everybody's doing their part to make sure, and continuing this way, I would suggest, until there is no predicament that people are in where, in other words, they're out of all predicaments based on correct way, based on truth, based on true knowledge, based on what the truth really is. Based on how things are supposed to be, hence need to be, where then something can go to where something needs to be, so then something can then be understood, be realized what is next, and continue what is next and what is next and what is next in that path. I know these things may sound far-fetched. However, is the answer, and it is realistically what is the need to be, simply because a lot of things in reality will not work correctly the way something is supposed to work. Everything will fail. A lot of things will fail, not everything. A lot of things will fail. And a lot of things failing will also make other things to fail, will also make other things to fail. And of course, no one wants anything to fail. I don't want anything to fail. I want this to be in an everlasting direction. So for that to work, for that to be in an everlasting direction, what people need to do is understand the phenomena, be aware of the phenomena, make sure and ensure that the phenomena is changed, stopped, prevented from something going to less than the void that something is. So when something continuously says, hey, this is the answer, 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 and some people want this, and all these things, is going against this, is turning around and going against, hey, this is the answer. Because the whole point would be for the answer to be understood correctly, and the answer being understood correctly can be made sure that all these things that are going on can be. Because then all these things that are going on is also part of the answer. And whatever is going on, where then all these things are then not like this, however, like this, like this, like this. And then part of the answer, how the answer is, and then like this, where everything's supposed to be. This is reality. Because people are not used to reality, this type of stuff that I'm explaining is very, very sad. There's a lot of emotions involved. Because this type of stuff is sad, this type of stuff is funny, this type of stuff is something or someone feeling different, is something someone feeling in another way, in another way, in another way, in another way. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of emotions, happy, sad, in between, everything to do with happy and sad. There's a bunch of things. ultimately the point would be from everything going from sad to happy. The nature of this universe, the nature of this planet, in other words. So all emotions are supposed to be how they're supposed to be, and then they're supposed to return back to where something is supposed to be, original. Original equals happy. The human, the alien, the bug, the insect, the animal, nature, the bird, the reptile, the cells, everything. All these life forms has to do with returning back to how something is supposed to be. And with these first changes, occurring in the way things are, with things at the same time being redesigned, because all these things, I would suggest the most important thing is for everything true happening and occurring together. Because when one thing is happening, the other things are not realistically being the same way. So these 10 things have to be like this in the totality of all things. With all things to do with the correct and true way, where everybody's understanding, everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what's going on, everything is like this. And then once things are the way they are, things are stuck the way they are in terms of the person getting to know themselves to get to know somebody else. At the same time, the people, whatever they do know, whoever they do know, they're working together to, for instance, if you're putting up a building at the moment of time, that building should be based on truth and true direction. Truth equals nature. Nature equals in flow. Everything, whatever is being designed, should be in flow of something else, not against something else. Like air, without the mix. So the mix and going away has to be based on changes. For people to change, do something the most correct way in whatever they're doing to make sure and ensure that something is understood, and then somebody will say, hey, look, this person's understanding. Hey, look, this person's understanding. Hey, look, this person's understanding. Not because of anything except because they understand. And they understand, so now I'm going to do this. 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 That goes in the flow with that person's understanding. And so that's the answer. That's what needs to be for everything else to be. People should focus on whatever they're doing to make sure and ensure that not only are they taking care of themselves, if somebody doesn't know how to take care of themselves, in terms of somebody's going to go to a store and buy some type of a nonsense thing, that hey, you know what? Know that this is not a choice. This is not something that you want. This is something that doesn't make sense. Do this instead. If you're not going to do this instead because something is better for you, then at least if you're doing this, do so at your own risk. Something in terms of suffering, I should not feel, no one should feel. Something should be that person in terms of them doing some type of a weird thing in whatever they're doing that they know is wrong, based on some type of a game, maybe to blame. Then something no one should suffer. If somebody's going to hit their head in the wall when they're told not to, and they know not to, and they do so, they should not be able to drag me or other people in the process. So I know I do understand that some people, when some people do various things, you just want to do something in terms of making sure or not making sure, however, like, whatever, allow something to be in a certain way, you know. Somebody allows something to be in a certain way. They're like, that person's gonna do something, let him do something anyway. That's what everybody understands in general. The person wants to do something, hey, let that person do something anyway. For long that they are not hurting you. That's the problem. That this person is doing something wrong and is having a wrongful effect on me. Things done for that person not to hurt themselves, sure, there's a pillow, somebody doesn't hit their head. However, then something is in a way where something hits the hair in the head, and something, is in a way where is knows not to, and does something anyway, and then wants me to suffer, wants me to also hit my head. That's the virus in reality. Where something is not a puzzle piece, where something makes sense for something to be where something belongs instead. However, something in any given aspect, whatever aspect this may be, something is less than is, may make sense in one area, may not make sense in another area, may make sense in some area else, may not make sense somewhere else, and there's a gap, there's a void, there's an in between that doesn't make sense. This illustration shows something that connects the way something is supposed to be versus something that makes sense here, makes sense here. However, over here there's a gap, doesn't fit. So this is going on in not only one aspect of reality, this is going on in hundreds and thousands and millions and trillions and billions and many, many aspects in reality. Where this is the virus and what's going on. This gap. Where it may seem benign to one thing, however, this connected to thousands and hundreds of thousands and billions and trillions of things, there's a lot of pockets and a lot of voids where somebody's feeling weird, somebody's not able to understand something, somebody uses an excuse not to understand something. Something doesn't add up to how something is supposed to be, hence less than something, hence going against something, since something is already in a void-like situation, since something is amplified, since something is going backwards while things are trying to move forward, these things don't work. What does work is this: to stop physical emotional harm, in the basic principles, visions, thoughts, words, doings, feeling, food, buying, selling, needing, wanting, choosing, deciding, supporting, partaking, entertaining, dwelling, believing, by what people are creating. And look, this entertaining and dwelling upon, you know what this signifies? You know what this is? I was going to mention this yesterday. There was some type of a lag, some type of a stuck situation I was in, and I kind of played that out to see what was wrong, why I was not mentioning something. I'm in a lot of different types of voids within myself. I'm not functioning the way I'm supposed to. This is not good news. The ocean and what I could have provided and what could have been fulfilled on that on point, move forward, is a swimming pool. I'm always striving to fulfill the ocean. I can't. Something is wrong. Something is not the way something is supposed to be. And somebody, you know what they're doing? Making something worse. Making something worse. Making something worse. Instead of making sure that, hey, there's a problem, I've been warned to leave this alone, to leave everything alone. Because I equal everybody. Do the correct math. I wasn't able to do my math on point on that because too much bothering in the process. So I'm still going along with what I'm going, what makes sense. So how do we get everything from this situation to how things are supposed to be in terms of the ocean, not swimming pools, and what is needed? Okay. Everything goes back to what I've been saying. If everything heals, if everything stops physical, emotional harm and how things are supposed to be, then all things will make sense. And in time, people will heal in the way they're supposed to be, not dysfunctional, to be able to understand something in a much more deeper way, to make a better choice, to make a better decision in whatever they're doing. Until then, the nonsense stuff and whatever people are able to partake in, they have to be stopped and prevented. And if you're going to do so, hey, don't drag me in the process. That's the most correct way in this moment of time. Not the most correct way in general, however, the most correct way in this moment of time and how things are. Because people have to understand to choose something correctly. They have to understand to choose something good, not choose something bad. They're supposed to, when they buy something, when they try to sell something, that something has to be based on truth and true direction. So something can bring a benefit to themselves, to bring a benefit to something else, to bring a benefit to something else. Anything with life cannot be bought or sold. I'm talking about things with blood in them. Anything with life cannot be bought and sold. You know this, I know this. What can be sold is everything without blood and without life in them. A carrot can be sold, yes. Based on changes, based on how effective something is in time, things will be so good that you won't even have to buy a carrot. A carrot won't even be sold. You'll just go and you'll get the carrot, how much you need. Not too much, not too little. The perfect amount. So somebody else can also get the carrot too. You're not the only one. How good are changes going to be to enable a food product to be free? So somebody won't buy or sell food. Something will simply go to a grocery store, get what they want, get out what they want, and be in balance, be outside of balance, and do everything based on truth and true direction. How well are things going to change? This is a matter of how much of a deep change are people willing to do based on understanding. Taking a personal issue on him or her or this or that, it's not going to work. What people need to do is, if you're going to blame somebody, blame yourself. At the same time, doing so, I would suggest no one going around causing issues to one another, deliberately. And keep this in mind too. If something or somebody knows that things are going to be disconnected if somebody partakes in something, the harm will be on themselves. You're causing harm on yourself. Well, where you're disconnected from everything, let's presume, because I don't know. This is not abundantly transparent to me whether you're disconnected or not. So you're supposed to make a decision based on something is connected still. I'm not going to buy that Coke. I'm not going to buy that Pepsi. I'm not going to buy that energy drink. I'm not going to buy that meat because something may still be tied and connected. I'm going to buy something better that is not tied and connected. And if something truth is tied and connected, then it has to be disconnected immediately in general. And nothing is anybody's fault except the person that tied and connected truth to something harmful. Because lies do make sense for some reason. Like something makes sense in why something life will maybe tied and connected to some type of harm. Based on understanding, so things can change. That's why. Truth cannot be. Anything that's true cannot be tied and connected. I don't believe that. And if something is, hey, at least you're partaking in what is true, not what is not true, where something is less of an effect. Except I don't believe so. Whether believe or not, that has to also be made sure that changes. If something is that way, I don't know. And so all these things I learned has to do with my realization, understanding, and connecting the dots. That's it. I shouldn't say that's it. I should have said that those are the reasons. And that is the reason. And so just make sure no one plays with my words. I don't play with words. My words are empty. My words are only words. My words are things for people to understand. That's all there is to that. That's always been what I've been mentioning and what I've been doing. Anyways, so the point would be that whether connected or not, somebody's partaking in something that is wrongful. That wrongful thing that they're partaking in has to do with them not making a correct choice, not making a correct decision, and infecting somebody else not to make a correct choice and a correct decision. So the correct choice and correct decision has to do with somebody making a correct choice, correct decision, so then they won't infect somebody else to also not make a correct choice and correct decision. Because when you go to a store and you buy something called blood in them, whatever that nonsense blood is, that meat that is not part of this reality to be bought or sold. Animals are for animals only in general. That's exactly what needs to change. That's exactly what needs to happen for changes to occur. But lack of understanding, people may say, "Oh, why am I able to buy this?" They're missing the point. They're not understanding. They're not willing to go the extra mile to understand or to want to understand. They're not going the extra mile to want to understand the situation, and they simply want to cause issues. They simply want to play games. They simply want to blame. There's already enough explanation. There's already enough things for something or someone to be understood, whatever they're going to understand. And you know what I'm noticing at this moment of time? I'm noticing one, two, three, four. I'm noticing people making wrong decisions. Okay? I'm noticing people making wrong decisions. When this moment of time, when they made those wrong decisions, you know what happens? I get healed. Technology. Technology heals me. Is going to heal me. And whoever's making a wrong choice or wrong decision, whatever they're doing, is unable to affect me. That's exactly what needs to happen on the masses. in this moment of time. That every being in healed, and those who are causing issues on people, whatever their natural equilibrium equals to and whatever they're doing, not too much, not too little, just the way something is supposed to be, for them to not make that mistake again, is exactly what needs to happen in this moment of time. Because no one should be suffering in whatever people are doing that they're involved in that they know should not be doing. They're not going to get their way because their way doesn't make sense with true reality. Their way is dysfunction. Their way is going against themselves, going against beings, going against the planet. Their way is not a way. Their way is a limit. Their way is a block. That's their way. So that's not a way. Depending on how people may have been affected based on that they're in, this little tiny thing that may seem little and tiny to somebody may be huge to somebody else. Instead of something being from 1 to 10, how somebody feels, something happening where somebody is healthy, something feels a 1, something may feel a 10, where that 10 may violate somebody. The same person should not be floating around to that somebody else. Because that person is harmful to somebody else. And the deliberate nonsense involved in our doing. So the point of the matter is the fact that people have to make sure that they do their part to make things work. And you know what's fascinating to me? Some people, I don't know what type of thought wave they're in. They want to infect me with their thought wave. They want me to do what they want me to do. And if I don't, I'm somehow wrong. And guess what? I'm not going to. I'm not going to because they're wrong. I don't have to spend my time and energy thinking about them because they're wrong. Okay? They're wrong to me. They want to claim that they're correct in a wrongful way. They're not correct. They're wrong. They're wrong to me. Because they're not making a correct choice, correct decision in whatever they're supposed to be making. And they cannot flip the script either because my situation and their situation are two different things. I'm not going to waste my time on them because that's exactly the virus and what happened. Okay? From day one till today, while I knew exactly what I need to do, where I'm not wasting my time, where I'm doing something that I know what to do that is correct and true, somebody's trying to buzz at me in way to try to get themselves and force themselves in the picture to try to say, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? While I'm literally answering their questions and doing what they wanted me to do anyway. And then me not being able to do what I need to do because of the same very nonsense that took place. So that's the virus. And then they're messing things up for themselves. And they can't drag me in the process. And they can't drag anybody in the process. That's their karma, that's their problem, whatever they're involved in. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with anybody. Doesn't make sense with me, whatever they want to do, doesn't make sense for me with whatever they're trying to portray. It has nothing to do with reality. Because from day one till today, there's this like thing where something's like this bother and something is not making sense, and somebody saying something, doing something that has to do with truth and true direction, and somebody wants to get inside, force themselves inside, and wants to make a wrong choice in a decision, and misusing decision at the same time, paving way for some type of nonsense to occur, claiming that they're correct supposedly. And this, along with various other things that they were doing, a very wrongful effect in various aspects of reality, could be the reason why people are still getting swimming pools instead of the ocean, because of any form of nonsense in my life. Literally. Any form of nonsense in my life and anybody's life and whatever people are involved in, whatever people are doing, has to do with some type of a nonsenser. So no, they don't have merit, they don't have say, they don't have audacity to try to do something and get their way in a wrongful way, especially when something and someone has done something anyway. So if you ask me if something is a need, not at all. Not even for a second. And some game players, what they do is they create scenarios to make themselves seem like they're needed. They're not needed. Not to me, they're not. To somebody else, maybe. You know? To me, not even for a second. That's how unneeded some of these nonsensers are to me. And they can't get mad at me and what I'm saying. That's their personal issue. That they have this lack of trust, that they have this problem, that they have this lack of faith, and they want to infect me with their lack of faith because they don't even understand what they're doing, yet they're doing something. And whatever they're doing is some type of a wrongful thing. So if I were to agree with them, if I was to side with them in doing something they want me to do, a wrong measurement will take off. And guess what? All these wrong measurements and whatever's going on has to be made sure it's stopped. And all these wrong measurements have to be made sure and ensured that there is no wrong measurements and whatever they want to push their notion or whatever forward. Okay? Their notion, their idea, their understanding has nothing to do with reality at all. Reality is heaven on earth. Their wrongfulness is doubting heaven on earth and causing issues on heaven on earth and claiming something is wrong. They're going against the very nature of heaven, the very same thing I said. So I would suggest anybody that's doing that type of stuff in a deliberate way, whatever they're doing, whoever they're doing to, either their way they stop, group stop them, or they're not fooling around. And based on changes, based on all aspects of reality, based on totality of all things, based on understanding, they will be introduced to the picture, not to me, up to them, based on the wrong decision that they're making and wrong choice that they're making. So something that I didn't need to realistically say that was a waste of time to me, I said simply because of some type of a harm causer that forced themselves in the scene didn't make sense, not even for a second, to truth. May make sense to a bunch of other lack of understandings. However, to truth didn't make sense, not even for a second. And try to push their narrative forward. And their narrative cannot be pushed forward because their narrative doesn't make sense with reality. Okay? If they want to hit themselves on the head and whatever noise they just made, they can infect themselves all day, all night long, clicking on their heads or something else to do with them far, far away. I wouldn't even suggest that. You know why? Because then something is harmful in that specific space and time, like I was trying to explain a little bit earlier. Something is harmful in a specific space and time, and that space and time has to do with anything and whatever anything may be that there's a something in that space and time where that space and time cannot be that noise. Something else has to be a good noise or no noise at all. I would suggest a healing noise to take away the voids, to create the voids in a way where the void will be corrected, where the void will not be a void anymore. If the void can be fixed, because not all these voids can be fixed, and if you can fix them, is not the same. Just because something is fixed, just because something is corrected, doesn't equal something is the same. Similar to when there's a flow of water going down and there's other water going in back of that water. Once the water is gone, the water is gone. There's other flows going on. It's not the same. Who knows what could have occurred if the water wasn't there? Where something else is now a different water. Same part of the same water, however, is different. Except this has to do with something else. This is more dangerous than what I'm saying, what they're doing. Because what they're doing has to do with something in their minds. They think, oh yeah, something can be fixed. And therefore they give themselves excuses to say, hey, yeah, something can be fixed. And so therefore we can cause issues. That's their logic then. What else would that be? That's their logic. They think because something can be fixed, they can cause issues on something. And guess what? That's not true. I have explained this before. Just because something can be fixed doesn't equal you cause issues. You strive not to cause issues. And let's say something is harmed, something can be fixed. Why cause harm for something when that duration of time that something is not fixed, there's a huge problem going on? And when will that be fixed? And how many things are not fixed that are affecting everything else that are not fixed? And what type of an issue is going on? Is dangerous. Is very dangerous. So this has to do with people not understanding the gist and whatever they're doing. Because if they did, they would not be causing an issue in whatever they're doing. They're lucky enough that I'm explaining the problem, because if I didn't, there would be different types of consequences too. And so people are fortunate that a person like me, a person like somebody else is explaining all these things and whatever they need to be explaining for correct choices and decisions to be made, the way something is supposed to be, not the way they want things to be. Because whatever they're doing, their logical thing, whatever they did, may make sense somewhere else, like a puzzle piece. Doesn't make sense with what I'm saying, doesn't make sense with me. Okay? So their void, their puzzle piece is like this. A gap. Not how things are supposed to be. So everything I'm saying is a general rule of thumb. Just keep that in mind, okay? There's specifications where some of these people, they're dangerous. They don't understand. They cause more issues to the problem than any form of solution. And they're problematic realistically. They know to change. They continue their way anyway, just to see what occurs. And going back to entertaining and dwelling in nonsense, one of the most dangerous things. And what I was explaining when that happened, entertaining and dwelling in nonsense is one of the most dangerous things, because somebody is entertaining and dwelling in something that they should not be entertaining and dwelling in. This has to do with a wrongful choice, a wrongful decision that they're making, a wrongful choice, a wrongful decision that they're involved in. And the wrongful choice and wrongful decision has to do with the lack of balance going on. Their lack of balance in whatever is going on is the issue in what's taking place. Because they're entertaining and dwelling in the lack of balance. The thing that's going against the earth. And there's some type of a reverse psychology being played at the moment of time, and there's some type of a noise, deliberate noise being made at the moment of time too, underneath me. So somebody's making some type of a weird noise underneath me. And so this is part of the entertaining and dwelling in nonsense that I'm talking about. Possibly while I'm doing something anyway, something doesn't want me to continue seems like, and something is playing in a different way. So if I continue, they win that way and they win that way, So some type of politics game going on. And these nonsensers, they're exposing themselves. They're literally exposing themselves. Okay? They're exposing themselves. They're getting themselves in trouble based on the lack of knowledge. So while there's truth in what can be occurring, there's also this other weird thing going on where something is disruptive, something is going against something that works. So those things that are going against something that works in terms of in the processes, they're going against things that work. I wouldn't suggest them being able to mess anything up or disrupt anything. The mixers that don't make sense, the tampering in the process that doesn't make sense, the manipulation, the corruption, the abuse, and what's going on, while there's a correct, true way to everything, not enabling the correct and true way to be, the way something is supposed to be, like an ocean, instead something is a swimming pool, has to do with this type of a weird negative energy where something is not only messing themselves up, is trying to mess something else up in terms of something hitting them head on the head, where something is telling, hey, don't hit yourself on the head, and they're dragging other people in the process in a different way, affecting people in a wrongful way. So they're dangerous. I don't agree with them. I don't agree with what they're doing. I think they're problematic. I don't even want to talk about this. This is talking about the voids. So they're trying to claim something is wrong when they're forcing something or someone to talk about something. And they're logical. They're not making sense at all. It has nothing to do with reality and what they're doing. And so don't be deterred. Continue being truth. These nonsensers, whatever they're doing, they're not going to be doing anybody else except themselves and whatever they're doing. Especially when they've been warned not to do things that they're not supposed to be doing. So whatever they're doing upon themselves. And they're playing a game, acting aware, not aware, and whatever it is that's going on. Harmful stuff like this cannot be aware with anybody that's harmful being aware at all. So that's the virus and flying what's going on in reality. So very, very important thing, very, very valuable thing in terms of what needs to occur for changes to occur, for changes to be made. Don't be deterred. Continue the path of truth. Anybody that's doing this type of stuff, whatever their purpose is, whatever that they're involved in, whatever they're doing it upon themselves, especially if they're doing it to somebody else and whatever they're doing and having a wrongful effect. Any form of issue while being healed, like I said, they should realistically be causing harm on themselves because they're going against something that is true, and I don't put up with that type of stuff. I don't agree with that type of stuff. While everybody's healed in general, if anybody's doing some type of unjust nonsense on somebody, they should definitely be punished accordingly to what they're doing. Not people that are changing and continuing the path of change. However, the ones that are doing something when they know they don't have to do, and they're going with possibly, oh, I'm being influenced, and they're using excuses. In other words, they're using lie excuses in whatever they're involved in. So no, I don't agree with them. No, I don't support them. The ones that are using excuses, the ones that are going against the very same thing I'm saying. When I'm trying to support somebody to get out of a negative void in whatever they're involved in, and while I'm trying to get them out of a negative void, and they're basically going against something, going against me, going against something that's trying to get them out in whatever they're doing, and then expecting different results, is exactly why things are not working. And that's no one's fault except their own.